What's up, everybody? Thanks for listening to the Whatcast. We got something cool to cover, but before we do, we got to touch a little bit on breaking news, I guess. It's a few days old now, Mike, but you finally got around to seeing it, and you felt like we had to touch on this. And after their explanation for this phenomenon we're going to talk about, I thought we should talk about it as well.
Yeah. I know very little of it. I only know you sent me a picture and told me what I was looking at, and that's all I know. So I'm interested to hear a little more, but I think that this could closely tie into a case that we covered a few weeks ago, or was it a few months ago now? I don't know. Time all kind of bleeds together.
Dun, 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 dun. We are old.
Yeah, that's fucking old age for you, man. Just every day bleeds into the next. Was it a week ago? Was it a month ago? Shit, that was 5 years ago? Fuck, man.
Yeah, oh yeah. I was talking to my younger sister about my sciatic nerve in my leg, and she was just like, wow, you got to take care of yourself. I was like, what do you mean take care of myself? I go to physical therapy for this every fucking week for months. You know, I do nothing to injure myself. What do you mean? I was like, I'm not fucking 20, bro. That's what it is.
Yeah, I remember when summer vacation lasted 10 months.
Oh, yeah. The good old
yeah,
fucking.
But conversely, the school year lasted 10 years. So, but at least you had that 10-month summer vacation.
Yep.
Man, that's nothing worse than two old guys talking about their youth.
Yeah, youth being wasted on young. All right, so let's jump into this. It is. So last week, an image surfaced that was taken by somebody who was monitoring the weather on a weather radar system in Mexico. Now, apparently, what he captured was seen on multiple radar systems that were meant for catching storms and stuff and weather patterns. Now, they say that the object that this person captured doesn't share the density with any weather formation. It shares density with solid matter on top of that. And it was about 100, it was over 100 feet diameter. It stayed at a certain position for a few minutes before it disappeared. From what I understand, this is spotted about 5:39 in the afternoon. And they are calling this image that's going up a glitch in the radar system. Now, I sent it to you right away when I saw this, Mike, because they are calling it a glitch. I want to get your opinion about what this could be and them calling it a glitch before I fucking do my spiel.
All right. So, in my opinion, if it was a glitch, it wouldn't have happened across multiple different radar systems. It seems weird that you'd have multiple radar systems that would have the exact same glitch at the exact same time. But I wonder if maybe by glitch they mean that that radar in general was picking up something that they don't have an explanation for, and it's just easier to say glitch.
Yeah, well, glitch is a very specific term, and that's the one that they chose to use. And to me, correct me if I'm wrong, a glitch is something that's created when an artifact or an existing file within a program kind of fails. When we experience a glitch on a video game, Mike, we'll use Skyrim as an example.
Oh, where you fall through a stairway and then you can't get out because you're not supposed to be back there?
Right, or somebody's neck will stretch like 20 feet after you kill them. That's a glitch. It's an asset that's already in the program that messes up. So very much like you're saying, it's not very believable that the same glitch would happen across two different platforms. And I don't know if it's two or more, but
unless they're letting on that this was a glitch in the Matrix, and they're saying it without saying it.
I'll believe that. Once you guys see the image, I'd believe that way more. So you're telling me that this radar glitched by what? Because it's not at random. It is a complete image. So this image is hiding somewhere in the code of this radar system, and it glitched and showed it for a little while because it didn't. If we have a radar program that's generating its own images, we have a fucking serious problem.
Well, and not only that, like if it was a glitch, I would expect it to look more like a blob or like an amoeba type thing. This is pretty uniform and symmetrical.
Yeah, it looks like Tony Stark's arc reactor. It's very symmetrical. It has purposeful shape. It was over 100 feet in diameter. This is not a glitch. This is something that maybe their radar glitched by not fucking cloaking something for a fucking second. And I don't want to jump to conclusions and say that this is a 100-foot UFO, but they didn't speak too much. To say that that's a glitch is what happened is not a glitch by definition of a glitch, and then to just no further comment, and for them to pass off that this image that's going around is the result of a glitch, I think is a new level of bullshit they expect us to swallow. When you see the image of this shape, there's nothing accidental about it. There's not even a scene where like maybe an image was spliced in half and then remerged together. It's something that's on the radar. Do you find that alarming, Mike? I mean, in this day and age, at where we're at with disclosure, this image showed up and they're trying to tell us that it's a glitch. Like somebody on our Instagram commented, well, it could glitch that way. And it's like, well, I want a radar system that just happens to glitches UFOs on it. Because this is the only explanation. If you show this to anybody in the world at this present time, it's a UFO that got caught on radar. Period. It's nothing else.
And there was no visual contact at all, correct?
Not that I know of. Not much has come out about this after this.
So this kind of reminds me of that big anomaly that was detected in the ocean south of Africa that came up the west coast of Africa and then disappeared.
Absolutely. The very first thing I thought of when I saw this image was that anomaly. The anomaly that was going up the coast looked like this thing underwater.
Yeah, and it seemed like it was. That one wasn't as uniform in shape though, as this was. Like this was perfectly geometrical. That one kind of was more blobby, and it moved up, and as it moved, it kind of changed shape, and so. It's not exactly the same thing, but it reminds me of that because there was no visual detection anywhere. No one reported any sort of sighting. It was just picked up by instruments, and there was no explanation for what it was.
I mean, not to sound like a psychopath here, Mike, but do you think that there is something, be it experimental craft being piloted by human beings to interdimensional beings to aliens, do you think that it almost seems like some type of positioning is happening?
What do you mean?
Like these weird anomalies are showing up in certain places. People are skipping over them rather quickly. Do you think that these crafts are getting in some type of position?
Oh, like they're preparing for things? I don't know.
Triangulation at least?
Well, where was this one spotted?
Over Mexico.
Over Mexico. So remember when we were talking about that ocean thing and the guy that was releasing all this information was saying that there's one in the Atlantic Ocean and one in the Pacific Ocean as well. And he knows they're capable of moving to different oceans, but they don't usually do it. What if that's what... Well, then again, if it was only 100 feet in diameter, it's probably not that. But he did say that these things... produce UFOs, so maybe it was something that spawned from their AI alien factory.
Ooh, like what they got hiding under the coast there. Yeah, but much like anything else that holds any real value or interest when it comes to the UFO stuff, unless it's something that the government's admitting to, no one's really giving a shit. I mean, have you seen the UFO videos that have come out in the past 2 weeks?
No.
No,
it's really weird. Like in this age of disclosure, you think I'd be more invested than ever. But I'm just so disillusioned by the entire thing. Like we're never going. It's clear that there's people within the military. I'm not even going to say the government. I'm going to say within the military, and likely not even like. There might be some high-ranking people, some high-ranking officers that are aware, but I think it's mostly like high-ranking contractors, people high up in the research and development team for various military contractors. Those are the people that are in the know. And I don't think they ever want to let that information out. So, it benefits them to keep it a secret because they can continue to make new weapons and roll out new technology. And meanwhile, like we always say, the military is way more advanced than the general public. But these companies probably have access to technology even beyond that. So it benefits them to not allow disclosure to happen. And and between that and the fact that you can't trust fucking anything on the internet now, deep fake technology with people is so good that you can make somebody say something and it'll look and sound just like they said that, and it wasn't even them. And now there's video of this person saying or doing whatever, and that's out there, but it's not really them, but it looks exactly like it's fucked up. So when we've got that sort of technology, it's fucking a walk in the park to make an alien or UFO video these days. So you can't trust anything anymore. Video footage, there's no, even if it's released on the news and they're like, oh my God, look at this, you can't trust it anymore. You can't trust any of that shit unless you are actually seeing it. And even then, who knows if you can even trust what you're seeing.
Yep. And we did that show about the AI and how fast that was moving. It's just moved faster than what we could have imagined.
Yeah. We got a scary future on the horizon. I'm terrified for our children.
Same here. Let's cuddle in fear.
Let's just make a fucking blanket for it and call it a life.
Yeah, exactly. Dig 2 feet underground and be like, yep, that's enough. That's safe.
That'll do it. I'll just make a pile of blankets. No one will even know it's me. I end up becoming like that creepy lady in Home Alone 2, except instead of pigeons, I'm just wrapped in hundreds of blankets. I look 3 feet taller than I actually am, but it's really just because I'm swaddled so tightly with so many blankets. I just look like a living blanket, man, and I scare all the kids.
You'll look like a ragman from DC. Ooh, did somebody recognize that reference? If somebody can send me something ragman that they have, I'll send you free shit.
Oh, shit. Now people are hitting the Google machine.
They got to own something ragman. What do you think about them giving this as an excuse? Oh, yeah, that's a glitch. It's something else. It's a different image that was inside the radar program that came up when it wasn't supposed to. If that's the case, what are they doing with that image preloaded into the program? Why is that there? Or are they saying that their radar program glitched a perfect multi-symmetrical shape?
Yeah, I would like to hear an explanation of what this glitch was before I rule the glitch out. But if this was detected across multiple different radar systems, then I think you could rule out a glitch. But I don't know. I'm not a radar technologist guy, whatever that job title is. It's not me, not this guy.
I think they're just trying to feed us a new level of bullshit. So be careful, folks. They're gonna call. That's not a glitch. They're just gonna say whatever now. They always have, but in the face of images like that, if it proves to be a hoax, cool. But if not, they're just gonna not say anything.
We're never gonna get any answers. So why even bother trying anymore?
Nope, it just gets us shadow banned from platforms and makes us look like psychos.
Yeah, and we're not psychos, damn it. Speaking of psychos, though, I got a good story. If we can get away from bullshit UFO bullshit for a minute or two, or the rest of the episode, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about what you got, because when you brought it to me to talk about on the show, it's like, oh yeah, it's about this, and you're like, no, not at all. It's way more than that. So it's something that I thought I was familiar with.
Yeah, All right. So I think probably the majority of our audience is familiar with the song "What's the Frequency, Kenneth" by R.E.M. Maybe there's some young people out there that are like, "Who's R.E.M.? It'd be a lot cooler if you knew, guys." But I'm gonna move forward, assuming that everybody knows that song and also that band. So they put out this song in, I think, '94. The album Monster came out, but I had no idea what it was about at the time. I thought it was just a cool song. I'm like, oh, this is a different kind of sound for R.E.M. and I was into it. But I found out what the deal is with that a little bit shortly after that happened. But there's a lot more weirdness to it. So for anyone who doesn't know, I'll provide a backstory. So on the night of October 4th, 1986, way back, Dan Rather, who was an anchorman for CBS, was walking down Park Avenue toward 89th Street in New York City on the way back to his apartment. He had just gone out to dinner with a friend. He left the restaurant, started walking back home. As he's walking, he turns the corner, and these two men approach him. He said they appeared to be in their 30s. One of them was over 6 feet tall. And as they approached him, the bigger guy called out, "Kenneth, what is the frequency?" And Dan Rather turned around and said, I'm sorry, that's I don't know who you're talking to, but I'm not Kenneth. You know, basically it's you're mistaking me for somebody else. But they kept following him, yelling, "Kenneth, what is the frequency?" And eventually got to the point where the big guy knocked Dan Rather to the ground and just started kicking and punching him, asking the same question over and over. "Kenneth, what is the frequency?" Just punching him, kicking him.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, it's fucking Dan Rather. You know, I know probably people that aren't from our generation don't know who the fuck that is, but he was a big time newscaster, and in the 80s, you know, you had the three main channels, and he was the newscaster on one of them. But he was calling out for help, and the doorman and the supervisor of the building came and intervened, and the two guys who were attacking him turned around, ran out the door. The police ended up taking Dan Rather's statement. A couple days later, he went back to work. He did the whole news, and then just before the end of the program, he just had said a little piece on what happened, because by this point it had been in the news and in newspapers and everything. So he wanted to tell, you know, basically what happened. And the way he explained it was a random attack, or it was a random encounter that turned violent, and it seemed to be just one of those freak accidents that sometimes happen, and that's where he left it. And that was it for a very long time. For the next 8 years, the case went unsolved. It was just thought to have been a random attack, maybe a case of mistaken identity. No idea who Kenneth was, no idea what the frequency is, nothing about that, no idea. In 1994, there was a man who showed up to the NBC studios, and he was concealing a rifle, and the guard at the NBC studios lot turned him away. So he left, and 20 minutes later, he came back, and he shot that guard dead. The guard's name was Campbell Montgomery, and he was shot outside the sound studio of the Today Show. And the man who shot him was a man named William Tager, and he thankfully didn't shoot anybody else. But his plan was to go into NBC studios and start killing people to stop the transmission. And what he told people, or what he told when he was being arrested, what he told the police was that the NBC network had been monitoring him for years, and they were beaming messages into his head, and it was driving him insane. And the only way that he could think of to get these transmissions to stop was to force them to stop the transmission, but using violence if necessary. So that's why he was, he just wanted the transmissions to stop, according to what he told the police. But while he ended up going to trial, and he was found to be, they thought, schizophrenic. So he was actually sentenced to 25 years in Sing Sing prison for manslaughter. They didn't call it murder because they thought he was having a schizophrenic episode. So it wasn't murder, it was manslaughter, but 25 years he was sentenced to. While he was in prison, he admitted to being one of the men that attacked Dan Rather.
Oh, wow.
And they ended up showing Dan Rather this picture of him, and he confirmed, that was the guy, that was the big guy that was asking me the weird question and threw me down and started beating me. But it gets weirder from there, because he explains what the question meant and what was going on. So Tager is actually a time traveler from a parallel universe. He comes from the year 2265, and in that universe or time, whatever, in that where he comes from in his parallel universe, he is a convicted felon, and he was able to enter into this program through his prison that they were using convicted felons as test subjects in time travel experiments. And if he was successful in his mission, then his sentence would be overturned and he'd be able to be set free. And he was told that the authorities from the future were able to keep tabs on him through this chip that was implanted in his brain. And in order to get back in time, he had to get the correct frequency that would interact with the chip in his brain, and that would pull him back to his regular time. And when he saw Dan Rather, he said that he attacked him because he looked remarkably like the vice president where he comes from, and it was this man named Kenneth Burroughs. So he was thinking that Kenneth Burroughs showed up to give him the frequency to get back, and then when he started acting like he didn't know him, he got angry and started beating him.
Wow. That's... Did he have any other proof that he was an actual time traveler?
None at all. But the weird thing is, they never found the other dude.
And he wouldn't give him up, huh?
No one ever found out who the other dude was. How weird is that? Like, who was this guy that was following him around? Was he his handler, maybe, in this timeline?
Wow.
And I want to know what his mission was. Was his mission just to see if time travel could work? And if it did, then he got to go back?
Would they pick a felon to go back?
He said that was, they chose to send the felons back because it was a dangerous experiment. So it's like the D class in SCP. Like, if they die, oh well, like you're basically a human guinea pig.
Damn.
Yeah. But there's a couple other twists and turns to this story. There was a piece that was written for Harper's Magazine in 2001. The author was Paul Limbert Ullman, and he was looking at this writer named Donald, I think it's pronounced Barthelme. But he discovered that there was this reoccurring character in a lot of his stories named Kenneth. And there was also repeated use of the term, what's the frequency? Both Rather and this author were the same age. They both grew up in Houston, Texas, and they both started their jobs working as journalists in the area. So there's no doubt that they would have known each other. And also, there was a character in the books whose last name was named Lather, and he was a conceited editor that was described to bear a strong resemblance to Dan Rather. So it's I wonder if maybe this guy actually was a fan of these books and just kind of tied everything together, and just by chance these two guys grew up around each other and likely knew each other.
I mean, that almost has to be the case, right?
Yeah, you'd think so.
Wow. Way more than I thought the story was initially.
Well, there's another strange twist to the story, though. So that the day that the assault took place, Dan Rather was also in attendance at a demonstration at Columbia University. And he, along with the colleague he was having dinner with that night, they were both there viewing this demonstration. And the demonstration was a broadcast. Now keep in mind, this was in the 80s during the Cold War. So all, like, any sort of media or anything from the USSR would have been completely, we would not have been able to access it. It was very tightly controlled by the Soviets during that time. They didn't want their stuff getting out. But Columbia University had this demonstration where there was a scientist who was able to discover a frequency that would allow him to broadcast Russian TV in Columbia University in New York City. That scientist's name was Kenneth Schaefer. So there's a theory, and this was never admitted to, but there's a theory out there that maybe the attack was intended for Kenneth Schaefer, and that these were Russian agents trying to get the frequency from him.
It was a case of mistaken identity.
Right. Or it could have been maybe not Russian agents, maybe CIA agents trying to get the frequency, because he wouldn't give the frequency to the government. It was something that he kept secret, but he was able to broadcast it.
Wow, yeah, that makes way more sense.
Yeah. And maybe it was like some sort of like MK Ultra sort of thing, or Manchurian Candidate sort of thing, where they were kind of after the event took place, these guys were like wiped clean, or they had no recollection of what happened during that period of time, or maybe they were given screen memories, and that's why Tager thinks that he is a felon from the future sent back in time on a top secret mission, rather than being a government agent trying to obtain information to spy on the Russians.
I mean, stuff like that has happened. Stuff like that is going on.
Yeah, when the Cold War was taking place, it was all about espionage. So maybe these guys were just like really, they were just hired goons. The government hired these goons to go beat poor Kenneth Schaefer up and get the frequency so they could spy on the Russians. Meanwhile, Dan Rather's like, I'm just trying to broadcast the news. Leave me alone. They're dropping elbows on him, fucking climbing up park benches and giving him the macho elbow.
But you think they would know that he was like basically a public figure, a celebrity?
Yeah, and that's why they weren't. They were just hired goons. And there's like there's some mastermind behind the scene who's like, curse you goons, fools, you're all fools.
Yeah,
you know, like they do in comic books and TVs. They always get the incompetent goons, like Shredder with Bebop and Rocksteady, but for some reason he keeps sending them out. They're fucking failures every time, but they still get sent out over and over again. Maybe that's who these guys are. They're the non-mutated version of Bebop and Rocksteady. I want to know what happened to Bebop, though. He's probably ended up becoming a homeless junkie somewhere, I bet.
Had to have. It was in his cards.
Yeah. Poor Tager had the frequencies broadcast into his brain. It turned him insane and murderous. Then he got sent to prison. At least he didn't get suicided. And actually, postscript to the story, he's out of prison now. He is forced to undergo mandatory mental health checks. He's not allowed to drink any alcohol or take any drugs. He's not allowed to drive, and he needs to check in with his parole officer. And I think he had to undergo anger management as well.
Those are some pretty heavy restrictions there.
Yeah. But he's free now, so he's out there. Hopefully NBC stopped broadcasting into his brain.
Maybe he's just sitting in front of the TV, just like all drugged out, taking in all the frequencies. They just made him. They made him a frequency junkie.
Yeah. Who needs pills when you got frequencies, man? Like satellite radio pisses him off. Doesn't have the same frequencies to it.
Hates podcasts.
Yeah, fuck podcasts. Just give me some AM static, baby. Sweet, sweet static.
Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast. Get yourself a Whatcast t-shirt or a sticker pack. Who was that dude on that one episode? Try the links in Homie's page. All this and more can be found at www.thewhatcasters.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.